What is you've been part of WorldLink for a while. What's like the highlight that you often get back from teams that go on short-term mission trips with us? Like, what's the feedback that you consistently hear people just rave about?
Yeah, I think a lot of people who go say, people who go on the festivals will say, I didn't realize that ministry could be so fulfilling, could be so much fun. And what's up, WorldLink Ministries family? We are back with this is episode 9, I think.
10.
Man, we have done 10 episodes. If you have not seen the other ones, go back and watch. Hopefully they're helpful.
All right now.
That's right. Go back right now. Binge watch them. All 5 of you. That's right. So
We've got a few more.
we got a few more. Maybe by the time this is being viewed, there's a lot more people watching, but that's okay. We're not doing it just for that reason. We do want people to watch it because we think it's helpful. But today we're talking about short-term mission trips. And so let's talk a little bit about this. What's our topic for today? I'm sorry. I'm Manny Fernandez. I work at WorldLink Ministries. Kara Pelletier, also WorldLink Ministries. And we are passionate about discipleship. That's what this podcast is all about. So introduce our topic a little bit more, Kara, and tell us what we're doing.
There we go. So we are talking about, like Manny said, short-term mission trips. At WorldLink, our focus is empowering local leaders in other countries around the globe to reach their communities for Christ. And so generally, we look a little bit different than a sending missions organization. We're not sending missionaries out. We sometimes send pastors and teachers to train leaders in those countries. But we do still have a short-term mission trip program, which is super exciting and fun.
Yep.
And so the way that we see this played out within kind of our sphere, and a little bit more of what we're going to touch on today, is we get to partner with churches and take them on short-term mission trips, take teams from their churches to the countries that we have work in, and they get a week or a few days to see the work that the Lord is doing around the world and kind of link arms with the leaders that are already in those places.
Yeah. No, that's good. I love what we do in short-term missions because so much of the time a mission trip will go and it's kind of this flash in the pan, big impact for the moment, and then they leave. And everybody is like, well, what's being done for follow-up? We need to have people on the ground. And so everybody knows about follow-up. And then how it's done varies across organizations. And so what I love about what we are doing is our missionaries are overseas missionaries, but not American missionaries. Mm-hmm. They are, if they're in Cuba, they are Cuban missionaries who are from Cuba, live in the towns that they're trying to reach. And so our mission force is much more diverse. Mm-hmm. As a result. We're not a white missions force that is going out throughout the world. And I think that's an important thing. We are not promoting a white Christianity across the world that some of the people in different parts of the world would say, well, I'm not white, therefore I can't be Christian.
Right.
It's a Ukrainian who's reaching someone else with the gospel, and it's Cubans or Venezuelans or Nepali, etc. All these that are going, and they are spreading the gospel in their own language and in their own culture. And then when we come, we're not bringing a white gospel. We are linking arms with people who are already on the ground, mm-hmm. and they're already doing the work. And so they've been preparing the soil. They will partner with us when we come, but then when we leave, they're going to be reaping the harvest as well after mm-hmm. we're gone as well. So it allows Americans to be a part of a strategy that is ongoing and is much more contextualized in that sense. So.
Yeah. So we have a handful of different trips that we do, I know, and there's a teaching and preaching where you can go and you can train the church planters that we have in these countries, or you can be linking arms and preaching at churches with them, things like that. There is children's ministry, where you go and you host a VBS or something similar. There are evangelistic festivals that we do, and then is there one more?
I mean, we really try to cater it to what the needs are there. So like we do a medical we do a medical deal as well to South Asia. Okay. We can do that. Our kind of our bread and butter has been our evangelistic festivals, and that's kind of how I got started with WorldLink. Really, it was through one of the festivals, and one of the groups that was coming to Spain to help us back when we were there. I was a kid at the time, and so they were coming to help my parents who were working in that area, and some of our church planters there. And they said, "What if we bring a country festival?" And we were like, "Well, that's perfect," because so many people here in Spain think that all Americans wear cowboy hats and cowboy boots. So we'll play off the stereotype. And it drew, yeah, that's right. And they did. They loved it. We drew a crowd, and the team learned line dances, and it was a big hit. I mean, whenever we would do evangelistic things in Spain, we generally didn't see a ton of people show up at our things, but we did that time. It was an open air in one of the parks there. We had so many people show up. And they loved what we were doing. And we shared the gospel one-on-one. And then at the height of the program, someone got up to share the gospel with the people who were there. And people stayed, which I was like, I can't believe they're staying to listen. And so it was a really cool discovery. And since then, we've done scores of trips all throughout Europe with different people coming and being part. And the reason I like that as well is that someone doesn't have to know the language in that country to be able to come and be a part of that festival. Mm-hmm. So we've had a lot of Americans who come and they'll do face painting, or they'll do balloon animals, or they'll line dance, and all of that draws a crowd so that our church planters and their teams can be sharing the gospel with the people who are there, who are asking, "Why are you here doing this?" And they love it. And then we get the names and the phone numbers of the people who have expressed interest or have trusted Christ. And we give those to the church planter, and they begin doing follow-up right after we take off. And so it's become an effective strategy that we've used in a lot of different places.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have not yet had the opportunity to go on a short-term WorldLink mission trip, but we had two teams that just went this last week. You were on one to Cuba, and then your dad went with one to the Philippines, and they did these evangelistic festivals in the Philippines, and I went through like hundreds of photos and videos yesterday.
Oh, wow. I haven't even seen those yet.
So much fun. Wow, all the kids, and there's the face painting and the line dancing, and everybody has their cowboy hats on. There are like pictures of people riding horses.
I love it. Yeah.
Looks like a blast. So super fun. On that note, tell us a little bit about what you were doing with the team in Cuba.
Yeah, it's different. We can't do a country festival in Cuba. Well, we might be able to. We're confined to work within a church. We can get a religious visa, and the Cuban government will grant us that, but we have to work within a church. So we could potentially do a country festival. It just would be, it's within the confines, and most churches are not huge, and so, but we would have tons of people. But we ended up doing, what we did was we did a VBS on a couple of the mornings. The first one we had from 1 to 5-year-olds on Friday morning.
Wow.
And there were 150 of those kids. 150. And then on the second morning, we had from 6 to 15 years old, and we had about 400 kids.
Wow.
And their parents were there. It was packed. We were in a church that seats 400, but there were about 600 people there. And so it was packed. And people loved it. Like the kids loved it. It was we had 4 stations for the VBS. Had to make do with the space that we had, but I mean, they still really enjoyed the time. And then in the evenings, what we'll do is we'll go to different places where our church planters are working. We'll bring together some of the church plants in those areas. And then the team that was with us was a choir group. And so they sang, which the Cubans loved. They loved the music. It was really great. And then we shared the gospel. We shared a testimony, shared the gospel. There were about 70 people got baptized during that time.
Wow,
Probably about
God.
250 people trusted Christ. And so and that was like in 3.5 days. So it was super cool
crazy.
to see how the Lord was at work there. People are super open, both there and the Philippines. And in other parts of the world. I mean, just so many different parts. If we were to take this sort of thing, it's such a disarming thing to have these types of trips where people are just like, thank you for coming and for doing this for us.
Yeah.
And for bringing this amazing thing to us and introducing us to a side of church that we hadn't seen before and introducing Christ to us. And so I love being a part of these different trips. And we're always looking for ways in which we can incorporate people who are partners here in the States with what God is doing worldwide without circumventing the work of the local leaders that are working there.
Yeah.
So,
what is you've been part of WorldLink for a while. What's like the highlight that you often get back from teams that go on short-term mission trips with us? Like, what's the feedback that you consistently hear people just rave about?
yeah, I think a lot of people who go say, people who go on the festivals will say, I didn't realize that ministry could be so fulfilling, could be so much fun. And to be fair, it's not always fun. You know, Paul's ministry would make clear that sometimes ministry is not a cakewalk. But a lot of people also tap into the Great Commission and they're a part of it in a new way. And so many people come back and they're like, I need to be more about the gospel back home.
Yeah.
I went halfway around the world to do that. I can definitely do that in my own backyard. And it gives them boldness. And they realize it's not terribly difficult to do this. And I want to do that. And we hear that a lot. We hear that a lot from people who go, because we also link up translators with those people, especially in the festivals. And we say, listen, you've got a gospel bracelet, like a rubber gospel bracelet that you're giving. You have to share the gospel with someone if you're going to give it away. And so many of them are sharing for the first time, and they kind of get hooked. They're like, man, that was amazing.
Fun.
Yeah. And someone responded and they listened and, they prayed with me and now they've trusted Christ. And so I think those things are good. We hear that a lot from different people who go. So anyway, that's exciting for me to see people kind of get the evangelism bug while they're over on these things.
Yeah.
So.
I think just the excitement surrounding a trip on both sides is amazing. Like, I know that I think we get caught up a lot in like, oh, I'm so excited to go to this country that I've never been to before and all of this. But I feel like you're like, I'm not sure how they're going to respond and all of this, but you get there and the people who live there are so excited and so welcoming.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are scenarios where it's
not that way. Yeah.
But I feel like in my experience, more often than not, like they're excited.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, that you just care about them, that you cared enough to fly, whether it's a short 45-minute flight from Miami to Cuba, or if you're going halfway around the world.
If you're going 20 hours away,
they're just excited that you care deeply enough about them. And I think that's felt.
Yeah.
It's felt through language barriers. It's felt through cultural barriers.
Yes.
like that's a universal thing for them to recognize.
Well,
You
I
came here because you care for me.
Yeah, and I think what they're seeing is the love of God.
Yeah.
And so when we come in that love, I think people feel that. I was always curious. I mean, how much does a trip really do? You know, I've asked that before, and I know other people have asked that as well. They're like, well, how much can we really do in 5 days of ministry?
Yeah.
Because, you know, we got a day for travel and we got a day off or whatever, something like that. And so sometimes it works out that it's like 5 days of ministry. And when I was in Spain, planting a church, my wife and I were there with another couple, a Spanish couple, and we were planting a church and we were receiving a group. And there were only 9 on that team. And I remember thinking as well, I wonder how we're going to be able to measure the impact of this group, because we did make a big splash and all these other things, but because of the fact that they were tying themselves to us for a week, you know, there was consistency that week, and I was looking, we rode the momentum of that week for about 4 months after they left. People were coming up to us from the town, like they would stop us on the street. They're like, "Hey, when's the next time you guys are doing something?"
Wow.
And so we would schedule new activities. We're like, "Well, we're going to do this next week." "Oh, awesome. We're going to be there." And there were other like it motivated the people in our church, people who got excited about just the big splash we made in the town, the fact that everybody in the town knew us, and the fact that people were welcoming us, and they started being more evangelistic, and they started reaching out, and that continued. That momentum continued for a while, and I realized, man, just 9 people for a few days of ministry really had a huge impact on what we were doing. That was my experience. Obviously, people have different experiences and all that, but I think that goes to speak to, it is a big deal when we say, okay, I'm gonna sacrifice my time, my resources to go and to link up with another church planter. It makes a big difference as we're going.
And I think the part of it that really moves the needle is having that framework in place for the follow-up after the team comes home.
Yeah.
We have these church planters that are on the ground before you get there, and after you leave, they're ready to welcome those people that you interacted with open arms and to follow up with them. And I think that's just huge. Yep. So just as we wrap things up, if somebody's listening and they're thinking, okay, well, this sounds like a pretty sweet deal. Yeah. I would love to take a WorldLink mission trip. We would love to have you. Yeah. So just kind of give us a brief explanation of what that process looks like if somebody wants to take a mission trip with us.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many people who are like, listen, well, what are your needs? I want to go help fill a need. And I'm like, well, I have so many needs.
How much time do you
have? I mean, it really, I don't want to try to throw it back on that person, but it really just depends, on that person's schedule. You know, when can you go, or when do you prefer to go? Okay, let me know when that is. And then what kinds of things do you want to do? And we'll make that happen. And because we have needs for children's ministry, we have needs for doing stuff with youth, we have needs for doing stuff with men or doing stuff with women. We can do conferences, we can do evangelistic gatherings, we can take youth groups, we can bring family teams. We can do medical stuff. So there's so many different things that our leaders across the board are asking for. We try to tailor it to the person who's coming, because we can plug you into almost anywhere with almost anything. So I know that can be a little bit overwhelming, but that's where we usually start. I say, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. What are your gifts? What are the skill set that you have? And then we start to think through, where can we put that into, or where can we put that to work? Mm-hmm. And that was the thing with this choir group. You know, they said, well, we're a choir team. We all sing in a choir, it was one of the leaders of the choir who wanted to, or I think it was the leader of the choir who said, I want to bring a group. And I said, well, this would be a great place to do that. And they could do a VBS. And she said, perfect. That would be fantastic. And so it ended up being just an amazing week. So that's where we start. And then reach out to us. And then if you have a desire, we ask you, well, you have a group of friends or people from your church that you can lead to come over. We'll walk you through the step by step, and we'll connect you with that person overseas. And many times I will go, or someone in our team will go to be a part of helping to facilitate that team. So those are different things that we do throughout. But it's basically, it starts with the need. Then we ask you to gather some people together. We fix some dates, figure out where we're going to go, and then we go. So it's pretty organic.
Yeah. I think that's great. So exciting. I think my favorite part about all of this is there's a lot of logistics that can float around and details that can be figured out, but the root of it all is come and see.
Yes.
The heart was never to be a ministry that just says, hey, there's this great stuff going on around the world, but just take our word for it.
Right.
No, we want you to see this stuff. We want you to see the lives that are being changed by the Lord and the way that God is moving globally. And we want you to get as excited about it as we are. So I think it's a great opportunity, a great on-ramp to be involved in the Great Commission.
Yep. That's it. So if you're interested, we're here. There's obviously other mission trips as well. We just want to encourage you, get involved in what God is doing globally, because it really is amazing to get outside of your bubble and to see what God is doing in different parts of the world. It's life-changing. So many people, we know so many people who've gone and done it, and they're totally different as a result. So we want to encourage you to do that. Get started. Go apply today.